Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got massive harem with Kushina and Mito? Huge shout out to Kakusen for this story. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. The granddaughter of the late Madara Uchiha, Kushina Uchiha Uzumaki, though she never told anyone she was his great-granddaughter except Mito Uzumaki, had just given birth to her beautiful baby boy. The little tan boy, with a tuft of red hair, blue eyes and 3 identical whisker marks on each cheek, she and Minato had named Naruto meaning Maelstrom, also the main character of Minato's sensei, Jiraiya's book, The Tale of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi. Whilst Kushina was recovering, Bawako and Taji were silently cradling her baby boy, and Minato was just finishing up getting her seal, holding the Kikbi, stable. Suddenly there was a noise, and a thump that sounded eerily similar to that of a dead body hitting the ground. She and Minato both whipped their heads around in search for what was wrong, when they both spotted it. The Sandai Emi's wife, Bawako Sarutobi, as well as Taji lying there unmoving, a shadowy cloaked figure that donned a white mask with a black flame-like pattern on the left side, and a single eye hole loomed over the top over the now deceased bodies, with their baby boy in his grasp. He spoke in a calm, even tone. "Yondaime Hokage Minato, step away from the Jinchuriki, or your child will die at the ripe old age of 1 minute." As Minato was trying to figure out whom this masked man was, he was unaware that the seal holding the Kikbi was slowly breaking, until Kushina cried out in pain. "Kushina!" shouted Minato with worry and alarm. "The seal's not done," he thought gloomily. The masked man repeated again, in his calm tone. "Step away from the Jinchuriki, or do you not care if your child die?" "Hold it, just calm down." Minato tried to reason. "You should take your own advice, Minato. I am perfectly calm." The stranger spoke, mockingly. He proceeded to toss the child into the air. "Naruto!" Kushina yelled with terror and worry as she saw her baby in the air and the mysterious man aiming a kunai at him. There was a yellow flash as Minato teleported to his child, safely moving them from harm's way. "I see, you live up to your moniker, the yellow flash," the masked man stated. "But now what?" he questioned. It was only then that Minato realized that the baby's blankets had several explosive tags covering them. Thinking fast, Minato safely removed the blanket and Hiraishi to safety, whilst the tags exploded covering the now open area in smoke and debris. "Minato! Naruto!" Kushina cried with worry. Meanwhile, Minato had Hiraishi himself and his child to their house. He tucked him in whilst thinking of what the masked man could be planning. He tried to separate Kushina and me, and is here when the Jinchuriki seal is at its weakest. Could he be after Kikbi? He came to his realization and yelled in frantic panic. "If he is, I'll have to go try save your mother. I can't let Kikbi fall into anyone else's hands." Masked man and Kushina. After a while of staring at Kushina, he entered the seal, where he proceeded to use his Sharingan to control the Kikbi. On the outside he spoke 3 terrifying words. "Come forth, Kikbi." Then it all happened, an enormous roar and a vile red chakra, the Kikbi appeared in all its glory. "We head for the village now," he commanded it. "Stop." He heard Kushina weakly yell. He was quite surprised, she was still alive even after the extraction of the fox. He voiced his thoughts. "The Uzumaki truly are something special, even ripping a Biju from you won't kill you, it's only fitting for the Kikbi to kill its former Jinchuriki." Kikbi reared its paw back and struck. The smoke settled only to reveal Minato holding Kushina away from the attack. Kushina looked around urgently and then asked with worry. "Where's Naruto?" "Relax, I have hidden him somewhere safe," Minato replied soothingly. Kushina settled down at this. "Thank God." Minato stopped him, "He has the Kikbi and is heading for the village." Minato stopped in his tracks. Useless fish couldn't even hold the Kikbi back. He raged internally. He sighed. "Oh well, she's on death's door anyway, I'll just follow the plan of making myself and Naruto the Jinchurikis for the village." Though masked man interference was unsuspected, but it is better for plan. He thought with glee, at the prospect of the village having 2 weapons. He then vanished with Kushina. House Naruto and Kiyomi. Minato and Kushina appeared in a yellow flash. Minato placed Kushina into the bed with Naruto. "Just stay with Naruto," Minato replied sternly. Naruto Kushina started to weep. "Minato, thank you and good luck," she said softly. Minato faced away from her and put his cloak on. "I'll be back before you know it," he proclaimed cheerfully, on the inside though he was seething. "Stupid 4, I can't let him reach the village or villagers, they are the most important thing, as well as keeping the weapon. But in the end Konoha will possess 2 weapons." Kukuku. Hiruzen was sitting in an office doing paperwork covering for Minato when he felt something vile. It couldn't be, could it? He thought to himself. Suddenly an Anbu appeared in front of him. "Sandai Emi-sama, it's the Kikbi." The Kikbi attacked the village out of nowhere. The Anbu shouted frantically. "It's as I feared." Did Kushina started fighting back. Or somehow Minato's plan is failing. Hiruzen thought. I know I'll hold it back, you go gather and protect the civilians. Hiruzen ordered. Hi sir. With that said the Anbu left. The Sandaime had a bunch of questions running through his mind. Did Minato's plan fail? Were all the safeguards we put up really not enough? Kyubi. Hikbi spotted Minato after he teleported to the Hokage monument. It immediately started to charge up a Bijuadama and fired it at him. Minato however countered this by going through a string of hand seals at a very impressive pace. The Bijuadama seemingly absorbed into the monument whilst Minato held out and threw one of his Hiraishin kunai outside the village. The Bijuadama then exploded, safely outside of the village. The masked man appeared and engaged Minato in a short fight. Just as the masked man was starting to warp him, Minato teleported away. Minato. As Minato appeared back where he saved his child from the exploding tags, his thoughts were beepizing the masked intruder. My attack just slipped right through him, then he became solid and started sucking me into some kind of dimension or something. What the hell was that move? The air distorted in front of him in a black vortex. The unknown masked shinobi started to appear in front of him. You won't get away from me. The masked man told him having just fully appeared, whilst Minato was in deep thought about what was going on. Does he use space-time techniques too? Whatever it is must be how he moved so far after taking Kushina. He defeated the Anbu under the direct command of the Sandaime, got through our most powerful top-secret barrier we have, and must have been aware that Kushina's seal would be weakened during childbirth. Then with the seal broken, he took the Kikbi, then he stormed straight into Konoha and didn't even pause to deal with the barrier. There's only one man I can think of that makes sense. Are you, Uchiha Madara? Just after Minato questioned him, the masked man slipped off his hood showing short spiky black hair, but Minato came to a conclusion. No you couldn't be, he's long dead. Oh, I wouldn't be too sure about that, stated the masked man. Minato looked at him questioningly. It doesn't matter who you are, but why have you attacked Konoha? Oh you know it's fun, it's part of my plan, to start a war to bring peace. The mystery man answered seriously. Minato looked at him with narrowed eyes, thinking about his opponent. Whoever he is he's incredible, he can control the Kikbi, wield space-time ninjutsu superior to the Nidames and my own, and clearly has evil intentions. If I don't kill him now he will become a greater threat than the fox. There's no hope for any of you. The masked man knocked Minato out of his thoughts. The masked man charged him with a chain cuffed to his wrists. Minato met his charge as he went to stab him with his kunai. The masked man however simply phased through him. The chain proceeded to wrap around Minato, binding him tightly. Minato teleported to his kunai again and dashed at him with one still tightly in his grasp. They charged each other again. Minato threw his kunai, it phased through the masked man's head. When it was completely out of his head, Minato created a Rasengan, still charging forward. Just as the masked man grasped his arm Gotch Minato vanished, reappearing above him. Rasengan! Shouted Minato as he smashed the technique into the masked man's back. The masked man seethed. Damn it, he teleported to the kunai he just threw. That was Hiraishin level 2. Minato declared proudly. Minato teleported to stab him in the back and placed a seal on him. The contract seal, are you trying to pull the Kikbi out from my control? His masked opponent queered. Oh, I already did, it's no longer your weapon. Minato stated. It's mine and Konoha's. Kukuku. He thought with glee. You earned your title Yondaime Hokage the Yellow Flash, you wrestled control of the fox and injured me in one move, but the fox will be mine, one day, the fox and the world will bow to my will, there are still many doors open to me. With those last few parting words he vanished, in a black vortex. Something tells me he wasn't lying Minato though warily. Hikbi. Hold it off until Yondaime-sama arrives. Yelled one of the many shinobi to his fellow comrades, said person looks on in complete and utter terror when he sees that the Kikbi is charging up its own attack, the Bijuadama. This is awful. Is the thought running through Minato's head as he sees Kikbi charging up its Bijuadama. The loud cry of Kuchiya's no jutsu rung out and all of a sudden the Toad Boss, Gamabunta appeared in all his glory, the Yondaime atop his head. He looked around and noticed the battle that was going on and the fact that he had been summoned on top the greatest known Bijk, the Kikbi. The Yondaime has arrived, exclaimed one of the shinobi. Minato thinks back to what the masked man stated. The fox in this world will bow to my will. He bows his head. I need to seal the Kikbi and Naruto and myself according to plan and inform Sensei and Sandaime-sama about this masked man. Hold the fox down for a minute. Minato yells to Gamabunta urgently. Look, I may be big, but I'm not a miracle worker. Gamabunta exclaimed. I need enough time to gather required chakra to take it and the blast out of here. Minato yells again. Suddenly, he and the fox vanish. Minato, did he teleport the fox and himself? Hiruzen questioned. Boom. Out there. Shouts Hiruzen to the ninja present, seeing the giant explosion in the distance. Minato and Kikbi. Minato gently puts Kushina down. Huff, huff, I've got to put up a barrier, Minato says to Kushina. My chakra is almost drained, Kushina thought in urgency. Chakra chains shoot out of her back and she wraps the fox in them. Iwaya. Baby Naruto cry in Minato's arms. Kushina. An alarmed Minato yells. Kushina trembles in exhaustion. Ha, ha, sorry Naruto, I didn't mean to wake you. Minato looks on with concern. Kushina. I'll drag the Kikbi back and die with it inside me, that'll prevent it from coming back for a while, huff, it's the only way to save the two of you with the little chakra I have left. Kushina panted out, already on death's door. She smiles sadly. Thank you for everything. No, I can't let her do that, we need the weapon. Minato thought in alarm. Minato thought quickly. Kushina, you made me your husband, made me the Hokage and made me a father, and I, Minato started to say, however was interrupted by a sadly smiling Kushina. Don't look sad, Minato, I'm happy that you loved me, happy that it's Osachi's birthday. If I had any regrets, it's that I won't see Naruto grow up. At these words Minato got even more alarmed. Damn it, I can't let her take the weapon. He screamed mentally, but compassed himself. Kushina, he drifted off. You don't need to take the fox down with you, we can use the last of our chakra to see Naruto one more time. He tried to reason. Huh? Kushina said with a questioning look. Just a little more convincing, Minato thought mentally. He took a deep breath and started doing some hand seals, which Kushina overlooked. I'll split the last of your chakra and seal it into Naruto with the Haki no Fuin Shiki, then seal the Kikbi away with a seal a non-Jinchuriki like me can use, the Shiki Fujin. He exclaimed just as he finished the seals, the Shinigami appeared. Kushina's eyes flew open wide. But that user will be, she exclaimed. Minato continued on interrupting her. But, I'll use it to be able to split the fox's power. It's just too great, it's physically and conceptually impossible to completely seal it all. I can't let the Kikbi be revived without a Jinchuriki, it would destroy the balance of the Biju. But with the dead demon seal I can permanently split its power in half and seal half inside myself, and the remaining half will be sealed inside of Naruto with the Haki no Fuin Shiki. Minato finished explaining his excellent plan. No. Minato. Absolutely not. He is our child, that's why I don't want him to have this burden, my burden, and on his own. Kushina yelled vehemently. Minato looked shocked. But why the Shiki Fujin? You don't have to die as well, just so I can meet them for a few minutes when he's older. I wanted you to be there for him to raise them. So then why are you sacrificing Naruto? Kushina snarled, and for what, the balance of the Biju? She hollered at him. Minato looked shocked, which then turned to an appalled look. Turning your back on the country, the village, is just as bad as abandoning your child. You should understand, you saw your village fall apart. You know the pain of growing up without a home of your own. And you know that Konoha is a family of shinobi. Minato exclaimed. Kushina looked pissed. Don't bring my village into this, Minato. They only fought so that the children could get away from the attack. If there's one thing Uzumaki taught us, it is that family is the most important thing. Village be damned, it's just a bunch of buildings. Buildings can be rebuilt, but people's live cannot be returned. You think this will be Naruto's home if he is Jinchuriki? They will hate them. I and Mito-sama wasn't because no one knew. This is different, people have been killed, the village attacked. The villagers will hate him. Kushina yelled in fury. Minato continued on. I could never be a substitute for a mother, things that Naruto need to be taught that I could never do myself. That's the mother's job and I need you to carry it out. Even if you only have the briefest of moments to carry it out. It's not for you, it's for Naruto. Smiled Minato. Come on fish, get trapped in my words like you always been. So I can complete the plan. Don't change the subject. It's not for Naruto. He'll be on his own. And hated. How could you do this? Is the village more important to you than your own child? Kushina shouted angrily. Be honest now, Minato. She said quietly. Very well, Kushina. Minato snapped. He continued. The village is the most important thing. We need a weapon to protect it. He stated. Kushina's shocked look changes to rage and then pure undulated hatred. Her Sharingan activates and starts spinning wildly. I see, then I hate you. Minato Namikaze. You're not my husband. You're not Naruto's father. And you won't ever be now. As far as I'm concerned, you're just a sperm donor. Kushina yelled in pure hatred and fury. Minato is shocked, but then he chuckles. I never loved you anyway. I used you for breeding a weapon and learned the secret of your clan's Fuinjutsu. Even better for my plan, since you're an Uchiha as well. Kushina, after hearing this, gains even more hatred on her face. The spinning Sharingan starts to morph, turning into a four-bladed shuriken. Her Manjikam Sharingan flared. If looks could kill. Kushina gave a hollow chuckle. I used you first, bastard. I wanted my child to be stronger than anyone, I couldn't find my destined mate, so I settled for the strongest. You're half Senju. Haha. You didn't even knew that, did you? No, the Kikbi sensed and informed me of your lineage, I only agreed for my children's sakes. You never even had sex with me. Ahaha. She cackled madly before continuing. It was simple to get pregnant, all I had to do was use my Sharingan to put you in Gain Jutsu, then erase the memory of my Sharingan and implant false memories if you broke free. Though you never thought to break out because they were used for pleasure and you didn't suspected anything. Afterwards I got your semen sample and was artificially inseminated. That's it. Mito-sama told about the plan of Konoha regarding me so I played along kahaha. She finished cackling madly, as if insane. Minato shook with rage, he'd been outplayed and he never even gotten laid to the whirlpool fish, she was a fine piece of fast too. But how Mito fish found about that plan? How you possess the Sharingan? He questioned. There weren't any rogue Uchiha. That's right. I am Kushina Uzumaki Uchiha. The granddaughter of Uchiha Madara and Uzumaki Kasumi. Kushina shouted. Minato looked shocked, then scared. Uchiha Madara, he breathed shakily. He quickly tells the Shinigami to split the Kikbi's chakra into yin and yang, he seals the yin half into himself. Or he thought so. Damn you, cursed Yondaime. Kikbi shouts with hatred. Kushina's chains weakened due to losing more chakra with the use of the Manjikam Sharingan. Minato notices the chains weakening. Damn it, useless fish. He thought. The Kikbi takes a chance and tries to stab Naruto in order to not to be sealed inside a human anymore. Minato and Kushina appear and block the claw from reaching baby Naruto, it pierces them through the stomach however. Minato smirks and looks at Kushina. Huh, looks like I won. He states smugly. Guchius no Jutsu. He yells. Ah, the Kikbi and the Yondaime, what the hell happened to you? The little toad yells in question, shocked. Amatora, I'm entrusting you the key of the seals. Please hurry to Jiraiya-sensei and store yourself within him. Ordered Minato. I see Minato is making a new weapons for the village by going through his plan and saving the village. Hiruzen thinks that their plan is successful. Got it? Replies Gamatora. Now that the Shiki Fujin and first half is sealed, all I have to do is repeat the Haki no Fukin Shiki and seal some of Kushina's and my chakra. I don't want Kushina trying to corrupt the weapon, but he'll be too loyal by then and he'll need her to help control the fox, Minato thought. Cough, I don't have much time, Naruto, I just want you to follow this advice. Cough, don't be fussy eaters, eat lots of vegetable and become big and strong, my Sachi, take your bath every day and go to bed early and sleep well, try to make some friends, it doesn't matter how many, just make sure they are your real friends, people you can trust. Even a few is enough. Study your ninjutsu, I was never very good at it, maybe you will be. Everyone has things they are good at and things they're not, don't feel bad if you can't do it at all. Make sure you listen to the academy teachers, but only the ones you trust. And remember the 3 shinobi vices. Don't borrow money if you can help it, save what you earn from missions, no alcohol until you're 20, and don't drink too much, it'll ruin your body. Naruto, you're going to experience a lot of pain and suffering. Always stay strong and show those bastards the true meaning of pain who hurt you. Thus don't forget who you are and find a dream, a goal, and don't stop until you achieve it. And live like a true Uzumaki. Sniff, there is so much more. Sniff that I want to teach you. Sniff, but just remember that I will always stay with you and I will always love you, no matter what you do. Kushina finished saying, with a smile on her face. You fish. You took all of my time. Minato yells in anger. He continues. Naruto, don't listen to your motor mouth mother, you're a weapon, you have no fear, always follow the orders and show your enemies pain, and always protect your village no matter what. Haki no Fukin Shiki. Inside the seal. That was the last thing the Kyuubi no Yoko heard before he was sucked into the seal made up entirely by the Shinigami's power. As it shook off its dazed state, being converted into wisps of energy and then into its original form would do that to someone, Kurama took in its surroundings. It was now standing on a complete white plain, which was to be expected. It was now sealed inside a newborn and they didn't think much. It also growled when it noticed that because of that, a collar around its neck represented the seal. How annoying. Only dogs wore collars. And it was a goddamn fox capable of incomprehensible destruction. Thankfully, it was not split in half like that bastard Yondaime had planned to do so. Speaking of that. Ah. Kyuubi watched with gleeful eyes as the Yondaime's body skidded into a halt after he was kicked painfully in the stomach. The blonde-haired man looked up and his eyes widened when he saw Kyuubi staring down at him with a wicked smirk. His eyes widened even more when he felt that Kikbi was not split in half like it was supposed to. What the hell is happening? Why are you complete and why I am not in the afterlife? Asked Minato, distressed. His stomach had butterflies as he thought of his plan being jeopardized, but that was impossible. You aren't in the afterlife for the same reason I am not in the Shinigami's stomach, you fasshole," shouted a female voice from behind him. Minato turned around with widened eyes to see Kushina glaring at him with so much hate it made him flinch. "What? Did you?" Minato trailed off as he realized the impossibility of his words. Kushina couldn't have known. It was impossible. All his notes on his plan and course of action were tightly sealed in. "Oh shit." Kushina snarled at Minato. "Know about the plan of sealing half of Kyuubi inside Naruto, the other half inside of you using the Shiki Fujin and me as the sacrifice, and then turn my son into a weapon. Know that both Hiruzen, Danzo and Jiraiya are also supporting this plan." "Yes. I know." Hiroshi chuckled mirthlessly. "You were so stupid. First off, you wrote what you planned, and secondly, you thought that seals were enough to guard them." So stupid," said Kushina, shaking her head in disappointment. She wasn't only disappointed on Minato, she was also disappointed in herself. She should have seen this coming now that she thought about it. Minato always did everything with a reason. He never acted on instinct or on a whim. Every move he did was with purpose, and he expected results from everything he did. Why making her, the Jinchuriki of the strongest beast, fall in love with him, getting married and having a child was to be any different? It was now Minato who glared at Kushina. "You stupid and useless fool." He shouted at her, but Kushina merely blinked blankly at him. "Do you know what you've done?" Minato was so enraged he couldn't form words. Kushina shrugged her shoulders uncaringly. "I used the Shiki Fujin to seal Kyuubi inside of Naruto, offering the Shinigami 99% of your soul and 1% of mine as payment. And most of the Uzumaki seals. I thought you were fake or wrong." Kushina glared. "I will not let this village use my son as it sees fit. I will stay by his side no matter what. Family comes first." "Always," declared Kushina with a sense of finality. Minato laughed mockingly and in anger. "You stupid fish. You are sealed inside of Naruto just as much as I am. How are you going to stay by his side, huh?" The smile Kushina gave him absolutely terrified him more than the glares she had been directing at him. "Being sealed inside Naruto was part of the plan since I can do what I need to do uninterrupted." Minato could only widen his eyes when two golden chains of materialized energy emerged from Kushina's open palms. One pierced his forehead and extracted wide ethereal energy that Kushina absorbed with a shudder. She then channeled Kikbi's Yaki through the other chain and wrapped it around Minato, who began to scream in pain as his soul was destroyed. He glared at Kushina with widened eyes. "You think this is over, you fish? Hiruzen, Danzo and Jiraiya-sensei will see that Naruto becomes the weapon Konoha needs to assure its supremacy over the other nations." Minato's deranged laughter echoed until he was no more. Kushina merely shook her head. "I'm counting on it," she said to herself before turning towards the Kikbi who was staring intently at her with that same smirk on its face. "Was that enough proof that I was being serious about my proposal?" Kikbi chuckled. "Indeed it was. I admit that it surprised me to see you act so ruthlessly, but I guess a mother would do anything for her child." Kikbi chuckled once again in amusement. Kushina's lips twitched upward. "We the Uzumaki put family above anything else, and knowing what Konoha did to us, to my family and then knowing what Minato was planning for my child is enough to change someone in my situation. And Mito-sama predicted this and told me about it, so it should be of no surprise." Kikbi's eyes twitched as Kushina mentioned Mito's name. "Do we need to do the other thing about that woman? I don't like her that much." Well, Kikbi's voice held annoyance. Kushina noted how nervous it was when it talked about Mito, and she couldn't blame the beast. Mito was quite scary when the situation demanded it. Kushina nodded her head tightly. "Yes, we do. And we need to prepare Naruto for the times to come. I trust that you already began to modify his body, right?" Kushina raised an eyebrow when Kikbi shook his head. "I was waiting for you to be fully assimilated into the seal, so he also got the special chakra from you. I don't know if it would also manifest like chains, but it will be able to subdue the other Biju, and it would make it easier for him to use my chakra when he is ready, and I am also working on his Senju and Uchiha Na, so he can get bloodlines of both clans," explained Kikbi before it concentrated and sent a shockwave of diluted red energy through the mindscape. Kikbi then began to pulse before more shockwaves began to originate from it regularly, each one more consistent than the other until it stopped completely. "Done." Kushina nodded her head. "Good. Now I'll go to assimilate Minato's knowledge so I could use it to train Naruto. He was a despicable human being, yes, but his skills were only second to the likes of Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama." Kikbi scoffed as it got in a comfortable position, so its head rested on top of its crossed paws. "You worded that right. Skills, not power. Only the sage and his sons were above those two monsters." Kikbi stopped and then looked around for a minute before chuckling. "But I guess Naruto would be the only one to surpass those two if everything goes as planned." Kushina nodded her head and got in a lotus position to help her concentrate in what memories from Minato she needed, mainly the Rasengan, the Hiraishin and his methods of training his body. If everything goes as planned, the Uzumaki will rise again to power, and my precious son will stand at the peak of humanity, she declared softly, but with so much conviction that Kikbi believed her words to be truth, even if they had not happened yet. And my siblings and I will stand free by his side. That's what you and Mito promised, reminded Kikbi with hope in its voice as it felt Naruto's chakra absorbing nature chakra, which was flowing and merging to the Naruto's chakra naturally. Now it was sure what Mito said was truth. Naruto was the child the sage kept talking about in his dreams. It was when the sage dreamed that his visions of the future took place. You better believe it, Kyuubi. Kushina opened her eyes and smiled at the nine-tailed fox. We of the Uzumaki clan never go back on our words. Harama returned the smile with a true one of its own. Call me Kiyomi. That's my real name. Kushina's smile only it sinks what Kiyomi said. So, naturally she exclaimed, why? You're a female. Meanwhile in council chamber. Already in the chambers were the members of all three of the councils, Shinobi, Civilian and his advisors, the elders, Hamura, Kaharu and Danzo. From the civilian side, well he honestly couldn't be bothered remembering their names, they would just waste his time. From the Shinobi council where Shibi Aburami, Fugaku Uchiha, Shikaku Nara, Inoichi Yamanaka, Chauza Akimichi, Murakumo Kurama, and vacant spots for the Senju and Uzumaki clans. He sighed, as he placed Naruto into the crib, he figured this would be a long evening. Sandaime-sama, what happened to Yandaime-sama? Inoichi questioned, looking around for Minato. Well Inoichi, seeing as he's not here I'm assuming something troublesome has happened to him, isn't why you've called us here, Sandaime-sama. Stated Shikaku as he focused his attention from Inoichi to Hiruzen. Nothing ever gets past you, does it Shikaku? Hi, you're right, something has happened to Minato. Hiruzen answered. As soon as he said that, as he predicted there were shouts coming from all of the directions of the council chambers, Hiruzen just rubbed his temples in irritation and sighed. He was right, this was going to be a long night. Silence. He ordered and then spoke calmly. If you would just allow me a moment to tell you what has happened, we can deal with any issues at hand and get back to our homes and families quicker. As I'm sure all of you know by now, the Kikbi has attacked the village, there have been numerous casualties. It just appeared out of nowhere. He paused to take a breath. Anyway, once the Kikbi arrived near the village, numerous shinobi held the beast off until Minato arrived for battle. When he arrived, the Kikbi was about to release a Bijuadama, luckily Minato shined himself, the beast and its attack outside the walls of the village. After that he proceeded to grab a orphan that was just born tonight in order to seal the Kikbi into him. The Fuinjutsu he used cost him his life, it is called the Shiki Fujin. The reason it cost him his life is because the jutsu summons the Shinigami. Using this seal he sealed the Kikbi into this child here, Uzumaki Naruto, he declared as he held the red-haired boy up to them. After that he gently placed him back after a moment. Come on, please hate him so I can more easily mold him into weapon by comforting him, by manipulate him to prove you all wrong by becoming a shinobi. Kuku. He mused rather darkly, waiting for their reactions. 3, 2, 1 he mentally counted down. Just as he predicted, the chambers exploded in uproar mainly from the civilian side. There were many calls of kill the demon. Or finish what Yandaime-sama started. Inwardly Hiruzen was cheering, on the outside, though he had a barely visible smirk, having enough of the noise he raised some killing intent and bellowed. Enough you fools. This child is not a demon. Minato wanted you to see them as hero. Another round of outrage was met with that statement. He sighed. Fine, I'll have to make some rules that will be followed, am I clear? He asked again, influenced by some killing intent. Hi Sandaime-sama. Hiruzen sighed. Good. He cleared his throat. Now no one can speak about who the Kikbi is sealed into in public or to the younger generation. The official story is that Minato sacrificed his life in order to kill the Kikbi. You are not to harm the child in any way. These are S-rank laws and secrets, anyone who is foolish enough to do so will be punished with death, does everyone understand? It was met with another round of outrage. Enough. Hiruzen bellowed with killing intent. I asked if everyone understood. Hi Sandaime-sama was a quickly chorused throughout the room. Hiruzen, Danzo exclaimed, getting his attention. I think the boy should be put under me, so I can mold him into the perfect weapon for the village. Danzo proclaimed proudly. No Danzo, this child will not become weapon, he is just a child, nothing more, and don't you forget that. Do I make myself clear? He spoke calmly, leaking a bit of killing intent. DCH fine, hi Hiruzen. All the while Sarutobi was thinking completely differently. Well playing, old friend. He will become the weapon of Konoha eventually. Kukuku. Alright, I will place the children in the orphanage now. This meeting is dismissed. Hiruzen then got up and proceeded to take Naruto to the orphanage. At least I won't have to do paperwork tonight, yes. He declared proudly in his head. He just dropped the Naruto off at the orphanage with words to the matron that if anything harmful happened to him, there would be trouble, not that he would actually do anything, but people didn't need to know that, after all he had his nice and kind old man face to keep up. Now he was on his way home when a rude Anbu landed in front of him. "Sande Emi-sama, Danzo-sama would like to have a brief meeting about the Jinchuriki," the rude operative stated in a monotone voice, devoid of emotions. Hiruzen nodded, expecting this from Danzo, but replied politely. "Yes, I was expecting as much, tell him we'll meet in my office. I'll be there in a few minutes." The rude soldier nodded. "Hi Sande Emi-sama, Danzo-sama will be waiting." With that, the operative left to inform Danzo. Hiruzen continued on his trek to the Hokage Tower, opting to walk and enjoy the peace instead of using the Shunshin no Jutsu. Hokage Tower 5 minutes later. Upon arrival, Danzo was already seated in the office opposite the desk, calmly sipping upon some tea. He turned and faced his longtime friend and rival. "Tea, Hiruzen?" he offered. "It'll be calming after the events of the Kikbi's attack." Hiruzen simply nodded and moved to sit in the chair behind his desk. He took a sip of his tea and decided to get things started. Danzo looked a bit puzzled and voiced his opinion. "Why can't I have him from the start? And make him loyal and strong weapon as planned?" Hiruzen shook his head. "I want him to still retain emotions like Minato planned so he can use Kikbi's chakra, but have him loyal to the village of his own free will. Set him with an impossible goal, like becoming Hokage. I will play the loving grandfather figure and manipulate him into wanting, no desiring to become Hokage to gain acknowledgement of the villagers. I will do this instead of Minato. This will never happen, of course he will remain loyal to Konoha through this though. He'll be strictly loyal to the Hokage if everyone hates him except myself. Then at appropriate age we will train him to become the weapon they meant to be. All according to Minato's plan." Danzo nodded, liking the idea so far. He wouldn't have them, but they would be loyal weapons for Konoha. "Are you sure the council will tell the rest of village about his status?" Danzo asked. "Yes, someone will, if not now then in future. It is inevitable after all, that is the reason I revealed that he is a Jinchuriki." "You really are the best manipulator, aren't you? You've been manipulating the council for years." Hiruzen nodded, chuckling a bit. "Yes, I have, Danzo, I have." Danzo nodded in full agreement. "Very well then, good night, Hiruzen." He nodded. "Good night as well, Danzo, I look forward to seeing how our weapons development go." But that said, they both went their separate ways, having thoughts about how the plan would carry out in some years' time. Konoha was safe, it would stay strong. Tonight was a good night, bar the attack and loss of some shinobi. 6 years later. "Why do they hate me, Sarutobi-san?" Hiruzen Sarutobi looked down at the 6-year-old kid that asked him a question that was out of place for a kid that age. The boy had icy blue eyes and shaggy red hair that covered his left eye and reached the nape of his neck. You may be wondering why the 6-year-old boy is asking such question. Because due to his condition he is hated in the village. At 4-year age he was kicked out of orphanage where he lived on streets and ate thrown food or fruit he collected from jungle for 6 months. Then he was given a rundown apartment and monthly stipend to buy food and necessary items where he is overcharged and sold expired stuff. He had no friends except some people who saved him from mob. They were on the boy's apartment after their customary walks around the village and it was all a plan to make Naruto loyal to him. It was so the boy would search for him for comfort until he became Naruto's confidant and then he and Danzo would train Naruto to be Konoha's loyal guard dog. Or fox if they took into account the type of animal Naruto housed. Sarutobi put a hand on Naruto's head and ruffled his hair, but Naruto swatted his hand away with an annoyed grunt, amusing Sarutobi. "They don't hate you, Naruto-kun. What makes you think that?" "Oh, the village hated the boy, alright, but Sarutobi had to put an act for him." Naruto gave the Hokage an incredulous look. "Didn't you see the looks they send my way? And they only looked at me like that because you were with me and they respect you for being the Hokage. Normally they would curse me out and throw things at me and laugh when they hit me. I am surprised they haven't mobbed me already." Sarutobi kept a calm visage. "Well, you do tend to prank them once in a while." Sarutobi trailed off, keeping his oblivious act. Naruto crossed his arms over his chest. "I prank them because of the way they treat me, and I cannot do much more since I am not a shinobi," muttered Naruto with a scowl on his face that momentarily caused Sarutobi to feel a bit uncomfortable, but he shook it off. It was now time to bring Naruto into the right path. But that is not way to prove them wrong, Naruto-kun. By doing pranks to them you are just giving them more reason to treat you the way they do. You have to give them a reason not to hate you. If you do that, I am sure that they will look at you and treat you differently." Sarutobi smirked inwardly when Naruto looked at him with interest. "How can I do that?" Sarutobi shrugged. "You could always help the villagers with their chores instead of pranking them. Prove them that you are just a good kid that worries about his village and the people in it." Sarutobi got a gleam on his eyes. "Or you can always become a shinobi of Konoha." Naruto perked up at that. He admired the shinobi since they were very powerful and could do things no other human could do. That interested him. A shinobi. He looked at Sarutobi with slightly hopeful eyes. Sarutobi could feel the excitement going through his veins. Yes. A shinobi. They protect the village with their lives, and everyone here respects them. Would you like to become a shinobi? Sarutobi asked kindly. Naruto nodded his head slowly. Yes. I would like to become one, but I don't have anyone to train me. Naruto muttered sadly. He knew that clan kids were already being trained to go to the academy in 4 years' time, and he thought that it was unfair. Sarutobi read Naruto like an open book and bent down to whisper so as not to be heard by anyone else. Tell you what, Naruto-kun. I'll look for someone that's willing to train you. Think if you really want to become a shinobi, and by the time you come to a decision, I'll already have someone to do it. Deal? Naruto thought about it and nodded. Deal. Sarutobi chuckled and with a satisfied air around him ruffled Naruto's hair and exited the apartment. Naruto watched him go with narrowed eyes. His conversation with the old man confused him more than it gave him answers. How the leader of the village was oblivious to how its occupants acted even when it was glaringly obvious. Why was he so adamant on him protecting a village that only showed him hate and scorn? And why every time he asked about his parents the man evaded the question and changed topics? So much that Naruto got tired of asking that question since he knew that it would go unanswered. So many questions and there was no one to answer them. Naruto hated unknowns. He wanted to know why the village hated him so as to come to a final decision if he wanted to become a shinobi for it or not. If it was for a good enough reason, like if his parents were despicable people who deflected the day he was born or were the cause the Kyuubi attack, he would prove them wrong. But if it was for some stupid reason, like if they thought he was the Kyuubi reincarnated, it plausible they though like this since he was born the same day the beast was attacked and subsequently killed, then he would plan and simple leave the village and go somewhere else so he could live a peaceful life without being hated by people he didn't even know. But how was he going to get his answers? I can give them to you. Naruto jerked and with wide eyes he looked around the living room of his admittedly nice apartment. At least the Hokage was kind enough to have him living in a place that was habitable. When he found nothing, he came to the conclusion that the voice came from within his mind. That was kind of cool even if he found it to be just as weird. The voice, distinctly female and somewhat familiar, giggled in amusement. Go to the Hokage monument and look for a black spiral mark on top of the first Hokage's head. All your questions will be answered. Make sure that no one follows you. It said before vanishing completely. Naruto knew he was not insane, and the voice on his head was familiar enough that he believed he had known, or at least heard, the one that was speaking. And they promised to answer all his questions, so with nothing better to do, and with the promise of not being kept in the dark no more, Naruto exited his apartment. The satisfied Hiruzen sat on his office going through some documents that detailed the economical situation of the village. As he read through them and approved or declined offers to benefit the village, Sarutobi couldn't help but think that his interaction with Naruto earlier had been very productive. He already began to install the desire to be recognized by the village and that the best way to do it was protecting by becoming a shinobi. Things were going just as planned. Sarutobi then looked up from his paper when he felt a presence arriving and he was not surprised to see that Danzo was standing in the middle of it. The man was Hiruzen's childhood friend and was just a little under the Sandaimi's level of skill and power. It was the reason why the Nidaime chose him and not Danzo as the Hokage, much to Danzo's bitterness on the early days, but that was solved when Hiruzen proved himself to the man by doing what it needed to be done for the sake of Konoha. Sarutobi greeted his old friend a chuckle. What brings you here, old friend? Sarutobi knew why Danzo was here, it was the only thing they talked about nowadays, but he had to ask anyways. It riled up the other man and it amused Hiruzen. Danzo took a seat and merely frowned at Hiruzen's question. You know why I am here, Hiruzen, so stop fooling around, Hiruzen, said Danzo. He is a man with a sense of a man that wanted to do something because he wanted and needed to do it to get it done with. He was weird like that. You shouldn't interrupt an old man's amusement. I am just as old as you. Which means that you should amuse yourself more often. Danzo just sighed in defeat and ignored Hiruzen's chuckles. The old man had not changed one bit, but he guessed it was his way of coping with the stuff he needed to do for the village, and so as not to go insane like many shinobi before him. The Nidaime was serious all the time and look how he ended up. A cynical man that not even trusted his own shadow. How far have you progressed with the Jinchuriki? Is he loyal or to a fault already? Danzo asked bluntly. That was what he was interested in. His part on Minato's plan was to make the boy a weapon that only heeded orders. Sarutobi turned serious. Naruto doubts the villagers and the way they treat him. I don't know who leaked out the knowledge of him being the Jinchuriki, but it was a good thing Minato planned ahead in case of that happening. I already promised him that someone, which is you, will train him if he ever come to decide to be a shinobi for this village. Give me a few more months and he will be our loyal puppy that we will train to be Konoha's pet fox. Danzo nodded, pleased before he looked somewhat remorsefully to Minato's frame. It is a shame really that Minato couldn't be here to train the Jinchuriki. He could have taught him the Haraishin and the Rasengan, but I guess we beggars can't be choosers. Danzo chuckled at the end, laughing at some kind of internal joke. Hiruzen shook his head. Remember that we will use the Edo Tensei to bring Minato back so he could finish Naruto's preparations. He must have subjugated the other half of the Kyuubi by now and it's waiting for us to revive him. With the power of the Kyuubi, an immortal body and infinite chakra, Minato will rise to become the strongest Kage and Konoha will stand at the top, declared Hiruzen strongly. Indeed. Danzo nodded before he recalled a situation that would probably make their plans fail if it went out of hand. What is the current status of the situation with the Uchiha? Hiruzen sighed and rubbed his temples. It's getting worse by the minute. Itachi reports that in their meetings the resentment towards the village is being expressed more and with even more passion each time they hold one. I fear that if things go like this and the village continues to suspect of them being behind the attack of the Kyuubi 6 years ago, then they would retaliate against it. Danzo rubbed his scarred chin. It is most likely that they will plan a coup. Would you need me to prepare some of my shinobi from now so they stand a chance against the Uchiha when the time comes? Danzo knew many ways one could counter an Uchiha Sharingan, and since he had an army of shinobi at his beck and call, then he was prepared for anything the Uchiha could come up with. Hiruzen shook his head. It won't be necessary. If the worst comes, Itachi will take care of it as there is no one more loyal to Konoha than him. Instead, prepare for Naruto's arrival because if he is anything like his father, he will become a strong shinobi and absorb the knowledge like a sponge. Said Sarutobi with a confident smirk on his face. Danzo nodded and disappeared in a flicker of movement. Sarutobi for his part got comfortable and continued to work on his paperwork and that made him sigh. He loved his village more than anyone else, but running it was a pain in the ass. But that didn't matter. He would do anything for it. Anything. It took Naruto the better part of 2 hours to make his way from his apartment to the monument unnoticed, but he managed to pull it off. He just needed to stay in the alleyways and avoid being seen by the civilians and to the shinobi he was just another child, albeit one they knew housed the strongest of Biju, going through the village. As he stood up on top of Hashirama's head, Naruto looked down at the village and while it housed the people that hated him, he couldn't help but admire its architectural aesthetic. According to the histories the Sandaime told him, it was constructed almost 100 years ago by the very man he was standing on. He couldn't fathom the kind of power one needed to possess to build a village from nothing, but Naruto found the possibility of having that kind of power very appealing to him. Remember why you are here. The voice chided him lightly, and Naruto, a little embarrassed, began to search for the black spiral mark. It took him a few minutes, but he eventually found it. It was smaller than his palm, and that said much by its size since Naruto was an 6-year-old kid. It made him think that it was done so as that the only way for someone to find was for him or her to be actively looking for it. Bite your finger until it bleeds and run your blood across it. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the strange instruction, but complied nonetheless. He bit his finger and flinched when he managed to draw blood. He ran his bloody finger across the smooth surface of the spiral mark, a glaring contrast to the harsh one of the material that made up the head of the strongest Hokage. There was a puff of smoke that surprised Naruto, and when it cleared thanks to the wind, which also was ruffling Naruto's hair, a plain scroll was revealed. Take it with you into the forest behind the monument. Naruto picked up the scroll and ran towards the woods holding it tightly. He ran until the voice told him that it was enough and that he could stop. As he regained his breath, Naruto examined the scroll, holding it at eye level. It was the size of his forearm and now that he could appreciate it, he noted the golden trims at its side and the red ribbon that tied it close. Now what? Open it. Shrugging his shoulders, Naruto untied the red ribbon and watched as the scroll unfolded. There was a bright light. Naruto fell to the floor unconscious. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto groaned and held his head as he woke up. His head was pulsing annoyingly and he felt a little dizzy as he stood up. Naruto took in a deep breath before looking around and his eyes widened in surprise when he noticed the lush green field that extended to one side to a tree line with trees so big he couldn't even see the canopy and to the other side there was a lake that extended to where his eyes could see. He took in the beautiful scenario and that was when he noticed he was not alone in wherever this place was. The first being he noticed was a thoroughly gigantic fox that had red-orange fur and sported 9 fluffy tails that were waving lazily behind it. The fox was looking at him with amused eyes and a smirk was settled on its mouth. Naruto also noted that the upper body of the fox was that of a human's, with opposable thumbs even. It suddenly waved merrily at him. Then he noticed a beautiful red-haired woman that was appraising him with sharp violet eyes. Her ornamental kimono didn't hide the well-developed curves she sported and even accentuated them. Naruto paid attention to her face as she nodded her head and smiled him with approving. His chakra is very similar to Hashirama's, and he certainly is handsome. He would do very, very well. The way she said that made Naruto nervous. Of course he is handsome. He is my Sachi after all. Naruto recognized the smug-sounding voice as the one that gave him the weird instructions, and he looked at her redeed. She was just as beautiful as the first one, but her curves were more developed, or maybe it was the fact her clothes of shorts and tank top were more revealing. He didn't know. What he did know was that this woman was looking at him with so much love that he thought only a mother could. "Hasan?" Naruto asked uncertainly and with a hopeful tone. Kushina nodded her head happily and spread her arms wide as she kneeled with a smile on her face. "Yes, Naru-kun. My name is Kushina Uzumaki and I am your Kachan. Now come here and give me a hug," she said to him. Kiyomi and Mito watched as Naruto ran towards Kushina and the two embraced in a fierce hug and it brought a smile to their faces. Naruto for his part was happy that he finally met his mother and he knew she was his mother because the love she felt coming from her could only be described as the one of a mother her child. Her scent was also familiar and Naruto had flashes of memory about strands of her hair. This was his mother. He had a family. He tightened her hold against him. Kushina for her part couldn't be any happier. She finally reunited with her child after 8 years. She had been waiting until he became aware of the hate the village harbored towards him so she could reveal herself towards him and to make him aware of his purpose as a direct descendant of the Uzumaki. It may be a little manipulative of her part, but as a mother she needed to look out for her child's best interest. The mother and son duo ended their happy embrace and Naruto looked at her with a soft smile. "There is a lot of stuff I want to ask you, Kachan. I don't even know where to start." Kushina ran her hands through her Sachi's hair and marveled at how soft it was before kissing his forehead. "And all of them will be answered, Naru-kun, but first you need to meet this too." Kushina motioned to the gigantic fox and the other redhead and Naruto looked expectantly at them. Mito cleared her throat before smiling at Naruto. "My name is Mito Uzumaki and you could say that I am your great-grandaunt on Kushina-chan's side. It is a pleasure to finally meet the hope of our family." Naruto's eyes widened when she said she was his great-grandaunt. "What? Excuse me lady if I don't believe you to be my great-grand whatever you are, but you are too young and beautiful to be a granny." As he said this, Naruto was shaking his head in the negative and waving his arms around. Mito's smile widened as she got a gleam in her eyes. "A flatterer, huh? Very, very good indeed." Once again her tone and now the way she was looking at him made Naruto nervous. Kushina for her part giggled in amusement. "We got our work cut off already, don't you think, Mito-sama?" Mito only giggled demurely behind the sleeve of her kimono. Kiyomi rolled her eyes at the women and decided to save the kid from more embarrassing situation. It was embarrassing enough the stuff Kushina told her what she and Mito expected Naruto to do, and they even made the almighty Kikbi no Yoko to become embarrassed. "My name is Kiyomi and as you probably figured out I am the Kyuubi no Yoko that was sealed inside of you at birth. Sorry for that since I am why the village treat you so badly," said Kiyomi with remorse in her voice as she looked at Naruto with regret in her red slitted eyes. Naruto stared at Kiyomi in the eye with a passive expression on his face. "Did you attack the village on your own volition, Kiyomi-san?" asked Naruto, surprising everyone there. Kushina tightened her hold around Naruto as she looked down at him. "Why do you ask that, Naru-kun?" Naruto couldn't possibly know of the circumstances surrounding the attack, could he? Naruto looked at her right in the eye and without hesitation, then responded, "I am not like the villagers' mom. I don't want to hate Kiyomi-san here with just knowing what I heard about her being a beast that only destroyed stuff because she could, and now because she is sealed, whatever that means, inside of me. I want to have the full story." At his response Kiyomi's eyes widened before she looked to the sky and thought that this was indeed the boy the sage promised would bring the tailed beast together. Kushina could only hug Naruto tighter and look at him with pride, and Mito was blushing profusely and held her cheek as she mumbled he's perfect like some kind of mantra. Kiyomi looked down at Naruto and shook its great head. "No, I didn't, Naruto. I was sealed inside Kushina when I was forcefully extracted from her, the task being easier due to her seal being weaker, thanks to her having given birth to you. I was fully intending on leaving and enjoy my freedom after decades of imprisonment when I was possessed by a man wielding the Sharingan. He made me attack the village, but thankfully I was freed, but then the Yondaime attacked me, and I retaliated on instinct. The man was planning to split me in half to seal a part of me inside of him and another one inside you, and use your mother as a sacrifice to do so, but thankfully she already knew of his plans for you." Kiyomi sounded bitter as she explained what happened that night, and nobody could blame me. Naruto looked at her mother with the same passive look on his face. "Why would the Yondaime want to seal half of Kiyomi-sen inside of me?" he asked simply. Kushina sighed and got comfortable so she could explain. "The first thing you need to know is that the Yondaime, Minato Namikaze, is your father." Hearing this Naruto's eyes widened, but they soon went back to passive look. He wanted to make a Jinchuriki of you and himself to give Konoha two powerful weapons. Himself as the Hokage and you as his loyal dog that would do everything he ordered it to do. Kushina growled lowly as she said the last part. Hell shall not hath no fury like a mother witnessing her child in danger. It was a good thing Mito warned me about Konoha's plan regarding me and my child when she passed away and that I found notes of his plans for you. Naruto nodded his head slowly. That certainly explains why the villagers hate me and why Sarutobi is so adamant on me proving them wrong by showing them that I care for Konoha. He noticed how Mito flinched when he uttered Sarutobi's name but filled it for later. He looked at Kushina. So that means that you are also sealed inside of me? Kushina nodded her head. Yes. Since I am in Uzumaki, I managed to turn Minato's sealing technique against him and used it to seal Kiyomi-san and myself inside of you since due to gain jutsu placed on her. Kiyomi almost killed you and I jumped in to protect you. I was fatally wounded and would have died, so I took the next best choice. I also sealed a tiny part of Minato's soul here that I used to get his memories so we could use his knowledge to train you up, said Kushina with a smug air around her. Mito chuckled at her. You have not changed at all, Kushina-chan. She giggled when Kushina scratched the back of her head in a sheepish manner. Naruto nodded his head and looked at Kiyomi with a smile on his face. If that's the case then you have nothing to be sorry about, Kiyomi-san. The one to blame here is Minato Namikaze and the man that controlled you to attack the village. You are a victim just like Mom and I are. Kiyomi returned Naruto's smile with genuine of her one, even if her razor-sharp teeth made that gesture look terrifying. Thanks for understanding, Naruto. Now I know that I didn't make the wrong choice in helping Mito and Kushina. Naruto nodded his head before turning towards Kushina with a confused expression on his face. I know why you and Kiyomi-san are sealed inside of me, but is she doing here? Naruto pointed at Mito when he finished his question. Kushina gently pushed his arm down. It's rude to point at people that are not your enemies, Naru-kun. Now Kushina trailed off as she looked at Mito with a serious expression on her face. I guess it's time for us to explain him about his purpose. Naruto only got more confused. My purpose? Mito got his attention when she nodded. Yes. Your purpose, Naruto-kun. Kushina-chan didn't seal herself and Kurama inside of you just because she could and wanted to do it. Nor did I seal half of my soul in that scroll just to talk to you. Mito took in a deep sigh before turning even more serious. What do you know about the Uzumaki clan? Naruto tilted his head to the side. Uzumaki clan? We belong to a clan. Mito scowled and muttered under her breath. That goddamn monkey's corruption runs deeper than what I imagined. She then looked at Naruto straight in the eye. Yes, Naruto-kun. We the Uzumaki were a clan that was on par with the Uchiha and Senju thanks to our prowess in the sealing arts and how we applied them into our battle style. We lived in an island surrounded by whirlpools of our own creation so as to keep outsiders from going into our land. Naruto was looking at Mito with wonder on his eyes. Wow. Our clan sounds like such a badass, said Naruto excitedly. Kushina giggled into her palm. Yes, we were, Naru-kun. Yes, we were. Wait. We were? What happened? Naruto now was noticing Kushina's saddened look and Mito's angered one. Kiyomi was listening with an impassive expression. Konoha betrayed us. Mito practically snarled. The Second Shinobi World War was caused because the other nations feared the combined might of the Senju, Uchiha and Uzumaki, and they began to attack directly Konoha's strongholds that were located through Hai no Kuni. The other villagers decided to destroy of at least one of the three clans. They were going to attack Konoha. So Konoha wanted them to stop attacking its shinobi on sight and since the only thing the Uzumaki were outside the village walls, they decided to give us up. Hiruzen knew about a secret passage to enter Uzushiogakure thanks to my marriage to Hashirama and used that to filter in battalions of AIM, Iwa, Kiri and Kumonin. Mito grinned in a feral manner. Thankfully they all died with the Uzumaki. And now these Konoha dare to use our symbol in their uniforms. She scoffed with disdain. One could hear a feather falling on the floor due to the silence resulting of Mito's tale. Suddenly Naruto's head shot up and dark blue energy began to swirl around him and his eyes changed into Sharingan with two tomo in each eyes and golden chains with pointed tips and spiked linked erupted from his back. Kiyomi was impressed at Naruto's unconscious display of power as were Mito and Kushina who were looking at Naruto with widened eyes. That lying manipulative bastard. He shouted and a shockwave originated from Naruto, making Kiyomi's fur ruffle and for Kushina and Mito to anchor themselves to the floor with chakra. Such power. That's why he never wanted to tell me about my family. He wanted to make me loyal to the same village that resulted in my family getting killed. Naruto then took in a deep calming breath and exhaled, his chakra receding back into his coils, along with his chakra chain. What are we going to do about it? To Naruto, Konoha's action demanded retaliation from his part. And he would gladly do it on his family's stead. Kushina stood up and said. We are going to train you so you can gather up powerful allies and bring Konoha to its knees. She then giggled, but Naruto found her giggle somewhat disturbing. We also want you to repopulate the Uzumaki clan. Was her nose bleeding? Mito also giggled in the same manner as Kushina. Yes, we want you to destroy Konoha and then reform the Uzumaki clan where its enemy once stood. Mito's nose was bleeding too. So Naruto trailed off as he looked at Kiyomi, who could only shrug its shoulders and sighed in defeat. What are you going to train me in? Mito got her bearings first. I am going to teach you everything you need to know about the Uzumaki art of sealing and the many ways you can apply them on the battlefield along with Harem ninjutsu. Mito's grin was positively feral. It is a good thing time here is diluted in a way that an hour here equals a minute outside. I am so going to enjoy turning you into a sealing machine. Mito even licked her lips sensually, and that was disturbing. Kushina also got a feral smile on her pretty face. From me Naruto-kun you'll learn hand-to-hand combat, how to use a blade, and how to control your chakra chains and Sharingan and evolve it, which you probably noticed you unlocked during your outburst. I'll also condition your body with Minato's training methods. And since you have Senju blood in you, you won't suffer the negative effects of Manjikam when we unlock it. Kushina was looking at him with a sickly sweet smile that made him nervous. Kiyomi then piped in eagerly. And I am going to train you in how to manipulate your chakra and elementary chakra. Since I was sealed in you since your birth and with Kushina's seal, I was able to give you all elemental affinity. That is all 5 nature along with yin, yang and yin-yang release. If you practice you can combine multiple elements to create a new one. And due to both Uchiha and Senju Na in you, I will help you in awakening the Rinnegan and possibly the Rin Sharingan. Kiyomi's grin was sweet and feral. We are going to have so much fun. Naruto shrunk to himself as Kushina, Mito and Kiyomi stalked towards him with hungry look in their eyes. He gulped. The things he did for his family. Naruto woke up on his room and on his eyes, one could clearly see the difference from 2 months ago. 2 months ago his eyes, while clever and sharp, had that gleam that denoted he was child. Now, however, his eyes did not have that gleam, instead they were somewhat dull and lidded in a way that whoever knew what meant, they would know he was not someone to take lightly. 2 months, that actually turned out to be 3 years if one did the math of the 8 hours he spent daily on his mindscape, had brought a lot of changes to Naruto. The most glaring one was his way of thinking. What he now knew of Konoha had made him jaded to village and he was apathetic to it even if he wanted to see its destruction personally. Also he had acquired traits from Kushina, Mito and Kiyomi as he spent close to 3 years with them. Mito made him a sealing nut that tried to relate anything combat related to sealing, and in Kiyomi's and Kushina's words, she also turned him into a scary person whatever the hell that meant. Kushina managed to somehow corrupt him into being a maniac with anything that had to do with swords, and Kiyomi got him to see the joys of enjoying the pain of his enemies. But during this time he was able to unlock the Manjikam Sharingan due to gain jutsu placed on him by Kiyomi. And later he awakened the Rinnegan. And according to Kiyomi in 4 to 5 years his Manjikam will merge with his Rinnegan, which will turn into Rin Sharingan. But she will speed it so it can be completed in few months. But according to her he won't be able to use Sharingan or Manjikam separately. Naruto also got the conclusion that Sarutobi was indeed a manipulative bastard as he kept interacting with the old man, even if it was not what he wanted, but it needed to be done to keep up appearances. The man was sure that Naruto was loyal to a fault and that was going to be his and Konoha's downfall for when the time became right. Yes. Naruto could admit that he was a work of art, but it was inevitable since those 3 were his role models and the ones he looked up to. They gave him the chance to be his own person, and the least he could do for them was to imitate some of their traits, even if Kushina and Mito kept telling that there was much more he could and would do for them when the time came in that disturbing manner of them, but he shrugged it off for now. His training with them already was bearing results as Kushina and Mito told him that as of now he was on par with a Chunin level ninja without using his Dojutsu and chakra chain. If he used all of his acquired skills, he can go par with Jonin and maybe against elite Jonin. Mito, Kushina and Kiyomi also put him through combat situations they themselves or Minato had experienced in the past to help along his gaining of experience. Naruto proved to be a prodigy and a hard worker, each trait by itself was enough to build a dangerous person in the battlefield, but the 2 combined could turn one into a monster. And that was not adding the genetic traits Naruto was born with. Sadly he could not use most of his skills because, even though he used his mindscape and Kiyomi's chakra made so any physical exercise he did inside his mind affected his real body, his body was not ready to endure such a strain. Sure he could do CQC, close quarters combat perfectly, but the age and size difference were too much of a factor. He could also use his chakra and the most basic of ninjutsu, but he used them to go without issues through the village and do stuff. But Naruto was patient. Well, not exactly, but he knew that good things came to those who waited. That was the reason he waited for Sarutobi to come to him with the offer of training and not the other way around. It would look suspicious if suddenly he wanted to be trained after Sarutobi made him the offer, so he waited. He waited for. Knock knock. That. Naruto hid a feral grin as he opened his door to find Sarutobi smiling kindly at him. Hello there Naruto-kun. How are you doing? I'm doing great Sarutobi-sama. What brings you here? You and I had our walk yesterday. Sarutobi nodded his head. Yes, indeed we did. But I came to inform you that I found someone willing to train you to become a shinobi of Konoha. Have you come to a decision yet? Naruto heard his tenants laughing inside his mind as he responded. Yes, Sarutobi-sama. I want to become a shinobi. Sarutobi's eye gleamed and in his excitement, he didn't notice the lack of Konoha when Naruto told him he wanted to become a shinobi. 2 years have come and go since Naruto began training under Danzo, and Hiruzen couldn't help the deep feeling of pride that swelled up on his stomach as he thought about how loyal Naruto proved to be to the village. According to Minato's plan, conditioning Naruto be a motionless drone would have butchered their chances to harness the power of the Kyuubi, since it needed strong enough emotions to bring it forth. Hiruzen was at first worried that Naruto would have free will to do as he pleased with this new development, but Danzo assured him that Naruto was loyal to Konoha. And Hiruzen trusted Danzo's words with his life. The man had been giving him monthly report on Naruto's progress, and what he heard every time only served to please him more and more. As it was expected, Naruto was a prodigy in the ninja arts, both in the theoretical knowledge and in the practical one. It was not as surprising if one took into account Naruto's pedigree, but what Danzo told him astounded even him. The day was supposed to be another of Danzo's report, and the man was running late. Ah. Speak of the devil and he shall come. Hiruzen looked up from the paint he was doing in the private quarters of the main building of the Sarutobi clan compound to see Danzo standing there. The two men changed little in the 2 years, maybe 1 or 2 more wrinkles on their faces, but that was it. Danzo, to what do I owe the pleasure? That certainly never got old, and the light frown on Danzo's face only served to amuse Sarutobi even more. I'm not even going to deign with my annoyance Hiruzen. Danzo said gruffly before a light smirk sat on his old lips. But the training and conditioning results had been too good for me to feel something other than satisfaction, said Danzo with a smug air around him. Hiruzen rose an eyebrow and picked up his pipe from the floor. Has anything new happened in the last month? Asked Hiruzen, lighting up his pipe with a quick application of Kaiten chakra. Danzo shook his head in the negative. The Jinchuriki hasn't shown any new abilities of technique since in the past month I have only tasked him with sparring against most of my root operatives. He has found new application to his Futen and Raiten techniques with all the fighting he had been doing, and his strategies are only second to those made up by the Nidaime. Hiruzen nodded his head as he exhaled some smoke. What about his other abilities? Speed. Strength. Taijutsu. Kenjutsu. Has he learned any type of Fuinjutsu? Danzo only had good things to say about Naruto's development in those areas, and while the learning of those couldn't be sped up by the Kage Bunshin method, except Fuinjutsu, that was practically made up for Jinchuriki, Naruto's natural talent more than made up for it. Danzo again shook his head. No. His speed is still the same, around elite Jonin level, which is damn impressive considering he is only 10 years old. He would grow to be faster than that, but he had been experimenting to augment it by using Raiten chakra after I talked to him about the Raikage's signature technique. The same with his Taijutsu. Naruto needed to know about possible future enemies just in case. His Kenjutsu keeps getting better and better thanks to that purple-haired Anbu sent to spar with him every week and the sparring he has been doing non-stop for the past month. His knowledge on Fuinjutsu is pretty basic since we don't want him to mess with the seal. Hiruzen nodded once again before exhaling some smoke. I see. That is prudent considering his potential for Fuinjutsu and by limiting his acquiring of knowledge would prevent future mishaps. So can we say that he is already Jonin level? For a 10-year-old that was pretty impressive, shocking even, but they had to take into account that Naruto had Namikaze, Uzumaki and some Senju blood going through his veins. According to the Nidaime, the Shodaime had been Jonin level when he had been 8 years old. Danzo nodded his head in the affirmative. Yes. As of now I would put Naruto around the level of Tenzo and Kakashi, both of the using their abilities to their full extent. Danzo paused before cupping his scarred chin. That is if Naruto doesn't tap on the Kyuubi's chakra. He could easily beat those two if he closes his eyes and stays away from Tenzo's Mokuton, but we know that fighting handicapped like that is impossible unless you are a censor, which Naruto isn't. And Naruto had mind eye of Kagura, but Hiruzen and Danzo don't know. Hiruzen could only chuckle with some amusement in it. So we got ourselves a weapon capable of both high-scale destruction and low-profile ops that we can control to our heart's content, and we also got fail-saves in case it goes out of control. Hiruzen leaned back and allowed a small smirk to settle on his lips. Suffice to say, our mission had been accomplished with more than satisfactory results. Danzo joined Hiruzen in his chuckles. Minato was not mistaken when he formulated this plan. At first I was skeptical, but after I saw it playing out, I knew it was going to work. Minato had made many countermeasures should any part of the plan was compromised, but they were not needed. Both he and Sarutobi had done a terrific job in making Naruto the weapon Konoha needed, and now they only need to revive Minato, but that could wait. Naruto needed to come out as a public figure to install fear on the other nations. And Hiruzen had the perfect way to do it. He locked eyes with Danzo. The situation with the Uchiha has gotten out of control, and Itachi refuses to kill of the whole clan. Do you think he is ready to take such mission? Danzo smirked. He is more than ready. Good. Tell him that his Hokage has another mission for him. Consider it done. Danzo gave Sarutobi one last nod before disappearing in a shunshin. Hiruzen lightened his pipe once again and leaned back comfortably once again. He will send for Itachi in a few minutes. Brute base. Countless twitching and smoking bodies could be seen littering the ground of the secret stadium-like training ground that was located on the underground of Konoha. Groans and grunts of pain were heard as the sound of clashing blades sounded above the twitching fallen forms of the black-clad and masked shinobi. Two blurs warped and appeared occasionally, and as they met each other, the sound of metal hitting metal was heard. Danzo appeared in a shunshin at the edge of the training ground and gave the bodies in the ground a cursory look before setting his attention on the two moving blurs. He made a mental note of upping the training intensity of his root operatives. They needed it if a 8-year-old was able to best them in combat, even if they were all pitched up against him Jinchuriki or not, it was not excusable. The smell of burnt ozone filled his nostrils, and a scream of agonizing pain reached Danzo's ears as the battle ended. Danzo watched as Naruto held up a nondescript root by the neck, the operative's body twitching erratically as blue arcs of electricity appeared randomly across his body. Danzo heard Naruto scoff before he threw the root member with little care to join his partners in blissful unconsciousness and sheathing his blade, a chikudo, on the scabbard strapped diagonally to his waist. Naruto had changed a lot in the past 2 years. Due to how hard his training had been and the rigorous diet Danzo put him through, along with the Kiyomi working over him, the red-haired boy looked at least 2 years older than what he supposed to look like. His hair reached in between his shoulder blades and framed his face, covering his left eye. Since he was shirtless, the compact muscles he sported could be seen. His face was narrow, and the uninterested visage on his face could unnerve even the most experienced warrior, Danzo included. The old shinobi approached the younger one, ignoring the beat-up bodies in the floor. "You could have killed them and yet you didn't," stated Danzo when he was at a talking distance from Naruto. Naruto gave Danzo a sideways glance before shrugging his shoulders. There was no need to kill them as this was a spar, and while they are not acknowledged by the people, they are still shinobi of Konoha. "Killing them would have weakened the village, so I merely gave them a motivation to get stronger," replied Naruto in a monotone that to Danzo only Naruto could make. Danzo nodded in acceptance to Naruto's reasoning, since it went with how the boy thought. He was practical and looked for ways to inspire those weaker by him, being that through beating them down, talking to them or whatever other thing occurred to him. Danzo knew that it was a good call not to get rid of Naruto's emotions, since thanks to this many of his root had gotten stronger. "Tell me, do you think yourself ready for an SS rank mission?" asked Danzo, and he watched as Naruto's icy blue eyes turned towards him in a somewhat interested fashion. Those eyes unnerved Danzo for some reason, but he shook it up. "What kind of mission?" Danzo shifted his weight on his cane. "The kind that will put more blood on your hands than your past missions combined." That got his attention. "I'm listening." Danzo locked eyes with Naruto. The Uchiha clan had been planning a coup d'etat against Hiruzen for the last couple of years. Our snitch, Itachi Uchiha, had confirmed that they were going to act soon, and it has gotten out of our hands. We tasked him with killing off the whole clan, but Itachi refused to kill everyone and opted to go kill only the ones directly involved, and we cannot have that since if we don't kill all of them, the living ones will seek revenge for their fallen brethren. Naruto nodded his head as he got what Danzo was implying. It was obvious. "You want me to kill those spared by Itachi," he said, crossing his arms over his chest and letting his body weight fall on his left feet. "Not all of them." Danzo shook his head. "Sasuke, Itachi's little brother, is to be left alive so we can harness the hatred he will develop for Itachi and channel it into turning him into a great asset for Konoha. Roots that I've sent to watch over the young Uchiha report that even for a member of that clan, he has a strong chakra." Naruto raised an eyebrow at that. "What about Kakashi Hatake? He has the Sharingan and is known to use it much better than most Uchiha." Danzo shook his head. "Kakashi's Sharingan is not strong enough to do the things Sasuke's will be capable of doing once he awakens it. We are hoping that the trauma caused by the killing of his clan becomes enough to accomplish that and reaches its full maturity. In other words, we need to assure that the Kyuubi stays under wraps should anything happen to you." Naruto nodded his head, seeing the logic in it. So basically my mission entails killing off the most elite clan of Konohagakure no Sado and make sure Sasuke Uchiha stays alive. Naruto nodded his head once again. Consider it done. Danzo also nodded his head. Good. Your presence should go unnoticed by everyone. No one is to know that you were there, only Hiruzen and I will be aware of that. Also Danzo trailed off, looked down and cupped his chin before looking at Naruto. We need to assure that Sasuke awaken his Sharingan. Kill his parents, Fugaku and Naori in front of him. His parents? Aren't they supporters of the coup? I doubt that Itachi would fail to kill them considering how efficient he is, and that killing those two are part of his mission, whether they are his parents or not, said Naruto. He had heard the story surrounding Itachi Uchiha, and at the moment Naruto was sure he could come out victorious, should he fight him if he all out. Danzo shook his head. Those two were the ones to instigate the coup on the first place. Itachi will kill them, yes, but I doubt he would do it in front of his brother. And now Naruto fully understood. This mission was not only to stop the Uchiha from starting a civil war like the one that recently started in Kiri. It was also a mission to secure a loyal Sharingan user so the Hokage could do with him whatever he wanted. That was amusing. Very well. Is there anything else that I need to know? Asked Naruto. Danzo nodded before reaching into his robes and pulling out a mask that he handed to Naruto, who was staring at it with some confusion. From this moment and onwards you are Oni. You are an extension of my and Hiruzen's wills. You'll be assigned the most obscure and dangerous Black Ops mission with the sole purpose of benefiting Konoha. Do you accept? The question was one of courtesy, but it needed to be asked. Naruto didn't hesitate. I do. But I already had a mask. And showed it to Danzo. That was just for your unofficial mission. However, this mask shows that you're an official Anbu. Danzo elaborated to Naruto. So Naruto put the mask on, and Danzo had to shiver at how demonic it looked. It even made Naruto look more dangerous and stronger than what he already was. And as much as Danzo wanted to deny it, it scared him, knowing that this boy in front of him would grow to become stronger and stronger as his potential was unmatched. It was a good thing he was as loyal to Konoha as he and Hiruzen. Behind his mask, Naruto finally allowed the amused smirk to set in on his face. Makoto Uchiha would only admit to herself that she was a miserable and sad woman. Many would think that if she told them she was miserable, it was due to not being beautiful enough, but she prided herself on her beauty. Thanks to the rigorous training and her genes, Makoto was currently one of the most beautiful females in the village, with a very pretty face, long and luscious raven hair, and a body that many men and women desired, in more than one way. No, the reason because of Makoto's suffering began 16 years ago when her husband Fugaku challenged her for the position of clan head and her hand in marriage. She of course accepted the challenge, not wanting to marry an arrogant and despicable man, but she didn't foresee what Fugaku would do to her, so he could assure his victory. Makoto had been dominating the fight when her head had begun to spin and had started to throw up. That lapse of a few seconds was enough for Fugaku to knock her unconscious and win the match. When she had regained her bearings, she was in a hospital room and she was told that there was a slow-acting poison in her bloodstream. Makoto had never been so angry in her life, but she accepted the consequences. When they married, Makoto made Fugaku known she was not his to do as he pleased and that they were only married by law, and that was it. That was common knowledge to everyone, but what was not common knowledge was what Fugaku did to her with the power clan head status gave him. It was best not to think about it, but thankfully it had not been anything sexual. It was more among the lines of humiliation and bad treatment from Fugaku, Naori, the mother of his children, and said children. Well, Sasuke was a brat and Itachi only ignored her and ordered around from time to time. But she endured. She managed to endure all that thanks to her best friend, Kushina. She had not been that devastated when Kushina died because Kushina herself told her the Minato's plan as much, but it still hurt to see her friend's body lying coldly inside that coffin. When Kushina was declared dead, Makoto knew that she needed to do what her friend asked her to, and that was to make public the knowledge of Naruto being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Kushina had been so adamant on her doing it that Makoto couldn't help but comply with what her friend asked her to do. She had watched over Naruto at distance, and she couldn't help to feel more miserable to see how he was treated and knowing she was the cause of it. Her feelings of self-loathing only got worse when found out Naruto was training under Danzo of all people after hearing Fugaku ranting about it. He went on about how the village was making a weapon out of the Jinchuriki, how their plan to usurp the Hokage's power was doomed since according to Itachi, Naruto was able to cloak himself in red chakra that was corrosive to everyone but himself. The only reason Fugaku kept his plan going was on the hunch they could suppress the power of the Kyuubi with Sharingan, and that was enough to assure the majority of the clan they could still go against the village. Makoto personally thought they were all fools. Makoto didn't know what kind of life she had condemned her best friend's son to, and she did not want to go to the afterlife to confront Kushina. She wanted for the Shinigami to consume her and send her soul to eternal torment. Even if Kushina had told her that everything that is happening was going to happen is happening, even the coup did it, how did she knew about that anyway? She couldn't help but feel that was what she deserved. Who are? The blade gleamed as it was brought down, and the man gurgled as his lungs were punctured, and they filled up with blood. He died in seconds. Naruto flicked his blade to the side, cleaning it of the blood belonging to man dead on his feet and the rest of his family who were also dead. The red-haired Jinchuriki was garbed in a full-body black cloak that obscured any distinguishable feature of his body. The hood was not pulled over his head as he wanted his red hair and mask to be seen. He wanted to give the Uchiha he killed the scare of their lives before he sent them to the afterlife. His red hair covered his masked visage, which was something truly frightening and demonic to behold. It was in the exact same shape on his face, and it had two thick red lines that went from the upper part of the mask to where its jaw ended. The lines were only interrupted by the eyeholes, which were set on a glare and only allowed for Naruto's icy blue eyes to be seen and the demonic grin, filled with razor-sharp teeth. Naruto calmly made his way out of the house as he sighed in annoyance. When he arrived at the compound, some masked individual which he found from his tenants that who was responsible for Kikbi's attack 8 years ago, who appeared out of nowhere in a swirling vortex of energy and asked him if he was going to deflect like Itachi, and when Naruto responded in the negative. The man just shrugged and disappeared in the same manner he arrived. That had been the most bizarre thing he had bore witness to, and he had seen some weird stuff when training with his tenants. Hey. That army of mutant rabbits was stranger than that, and it was good fight. You learned lots of stuff from that. Shouted Kiyomi from within his mind, and Naruto chuckled. In his mindscape, anything was possible as long Naruto willed it to happen, so he gave Kushina, Mito and Kiyomi total control over it. They would materialize many different combat situations where he was to use his abilities to come out as the victor. In Kiyomi's case, he would material stuff from nightmares that she had, claiming that the one about the rabbits was the worst one. And it had been a good fight. Naruto had to regenerate an ear, an eye and his whole left arm after he was done. It was a good thing that kind of damage was not done to his outside body when training in the mindscape. Are you sure that was the one who made you attack Konoha? Asked Naruto after he exited the house and jumped to the roof of it. He stared at the compound, noticing the bleeding bodies that littered the ground, most of them lacking their eyes. It seemed like the masked man was also doing some work. Naruto felt Kiyomi's nod. Yes. And now that I got rid of his chakra, I know he is not Madara Uchiha. As a matter of fact, Kushina, his chakra reminds me of that Uchiha clown Minato used to teach. But he also has some of Hashirama's chakra coursing through him. Obito? That's impossible. Naruto could picture Kushina doing an X with her arms, and it made him chuckle. Obito died after a rock fell on top of him. Injuries like that are fatal, and I doubt he could have survived. Mito decided to put her own 2 cents. You have to take into consideration the fact that Kiyomi can feel some of Hashirama's chakra on him. And we know some of his cells have been kept alive in order to be used. That Tenzo child is proof enough, so the possibility of him being alive thanks to someone, most likely Orochimaru, implanting them on him to keep him alive are not so far-fetched. In any case, we'll need to keep an eye on him. He is harvesting dozens of Sharingan eyes and I don't like it one bit. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Now, Mom, where is Mikoto's house? Naruto asked as he began to jump his way towards the exact center of the compound. He had killed already his fair share of Uchiha, and he reasoned he could leave the rest to Itachi and the masked man. Naruto could feel Kushina's excitement. She lives exactly at the center of the compound, in the biggest house. Oh, I can't wait to have Miko-chan join us. She is probably beating herself up with the things I told her to do. Kushina sounded more sheepish than remorseful, but that was Kushina alright. Naruto shook his head and he upped his speed. Kiyomi had given him some sensory abilities that had amplified his own Uzumaki sensory skill, Mind Eye of Kagura. Now with Kiyomi's boost, he can sense emotions too, thanks to his mindscape training, and he could feel what was happening in the compound quite easily. Itachi was almost done with killing off the treacherous clan members, and if the rage he was feeling was anything to go by, then he was aware someone else was killing the innocent. The innocent ones were aware of the coup, and they did nothing to stop it, nor did they report it to the Hokage, so they were hardly innocent. The masked man was nowhere to be felt. Naruto made his way towards the 4 chakra signatures he felt at the center of the compound and quickly arrived to a 2-story house that looked a lot like the other ones, except this one had a bigger front yard and backyard and was perhaps a little wider, but Naruto paid little attention to that. He slipped in without making any sound and was amused at the scene before him. Yugaku and Naori were standing protectively in front of Sasuke and were glaring at Mikoto with their Sharingan activated. Mikoto was returning the glare with just as much, if not more intensity than the other two, with a kunai held tightly in her hand. It was amusing because he could see the sweat trailing down Fugaku and Naori, all of them knowing that they were no match to Mikoto. Dusan. Kasan. What is happening? Why is Itachi Nai killing everyone else? And why Mikoto is attacking us? Naori glanced down at her son with some nervousness. I don't know, Sasuke. But I know it's probably because of the same reason this fish attacked us out of nowhere. Mikoto chuckled in amusement. Out of nowhere, you say? She snarled at them, and her red eyes began to spin threateningly. I got sick of the way your family treated me, knowing that I could do nothing to you too, as it would pitch the entire clan against me. But now that you finally drove your son over the edge in such a way that it made him start killing everybody, then I told myself, why not? Fugaku could only growl and stare at Mikoto. He didn't want to say anything. He didn't even want to move. He knew Mikoto could end him in a heartbeat, and he appreciated his life too much to forfeit it in a way. He would wait for an opportunity, scoop up his child and Naori, and get the hell out of there. Their plans were foiled, but he could live to strike another day. An amused chuckle drew their attention to the window, and while Fugaku, Naori and Sasuke jumped and stared in horror. Mikoto's eyes widened, and she let the kunai fall to the floor as tears welled up in them. She would recognize that red hair anywhere, and while the mask scared her, she looked past that and managed to see the fond stare Naruto was directing at her. Uchiha Mikoto Naruto trailed off, his voice sounded double-layered and deeper, so as to mask his identity further. My mother has only told me good things about you, and she was very adamant for me to meet you. Mikoto's eyes widened. Your mother? How is she alive? Naruto had to smile at the deep hope her voice was carrying. It only served to assure him that Mikoto was indeed a good someone that will be loyal to his cause. Oh, she is so cute. Was that a squeal from Kushina? Females were so weird. She was never dead, Mikoto. And so you know, neither she nor I blame you for what she asked you to do and how it affected me. It led me to realize that she was indeed alive, and for that I am thankful, said Naruto, smiling at her, closing his eyes, so she knew he was doing that. Mikoto went to her knees and began crying. Her being was filled with so much happiness that she couldn't help herself. And this was the opportunity Fugaku was waiting for. He shot up from his position, picked up the kunai Mikoto dropped and raised over his head, and brought it down to end her life. But it was not to be. The gloved hand I'm sorry, Fugaku-san, but I cannot let you kill her off. She is too important to me and my mother, said Naruto before tightening his hold around Fugaku's wrist, and what happened next would forever be etched in Sasuke's mind. Naruto pulled and ripped off Fugaku's arm from its socket. Blood gushed out like a fountain from wound located at his shoulder. The Uchiha clan head stared at the demon holding his arm as he discarded it aside without a care in the world. He was about to scream in bloody agony, but the sword embedded into his throat prevented that. Naori and Sasuke stared in horror as Naruto gripped his blade by the handle and made it spin 360 degrees while still stabbed through Fugaku's neck. Fugaku's head only turned halfway and it was staring right back at Sasuke and Naori with wide and blank eyes and blood leaking out of his mouth. Fugaku's body fell forward, but his head fell backwards, rolling towards Naori and Sasuke, the two of them staring at it as it came to a stop at their feet. And then they screamed. Nice, complimented Kiyomi. Naruto sheathed his sword and pointed an open palm towards Naori. A golden chain surrounded in red energy shot forward and wrapped around her head, muffling up her screams in the process. The chain soon began to retract into Naruto and with it, Naori. Ha-san. Sasuke screamed in fright as he watched his mother pulled away from him. His voice hoarse, face red and tears streaming down his face. The chain retracted fully and Naruto held Naori by her neck. He stared into her Sharingan eyes and Naori tried to put him in a genjutsu out of reflex, but she was surprised when her chakra was disrupted when it reached his coils. Naruto shook his head and turned it towards Mikoto, who was staring at him with an excited smile on her face. I guess she is yours to kill, Mikoto, said Naruto, tightening his grip around Naori, who could only choke as her access of oxygen was stopped. Mikoto nodded her head and picked the kunai from Fugaku's hand. She kicked the headless body once before she moved in towards Naori. She stared into her frightened eyes before a mischievous grin set on her face. So you know, you are not the only one to like it up the ass. Fugaku did too, said Mikoto, and she enjoyed the shocked look Naori sent her way before she plunged the kunai through her temple. Itachi decided to arrive at that exact same time. Naruto threw Naori's lifeless body to the shocked Itachi and used that as a distraction move toward Sasuke and grabbed him by the scruff of his neck roughly and held his sword threateningly against Sasuke's neck. Mikoto joined him by his side and they both enjoyed the wide-eyed and blank look Itachi was sending them. Nai-san. They killed Two-san and Ka-san. Shouted Sasuke, but Mikoto shut him up by backhanding him, leaving a red mark on his cheek that was already pulsing and becoming purple. Why don't you tell Sasuke that you were planning on doing the same thing, Itachi? Naruto watched as Sasuke's eyes widened when Itachi refused to meet his eyes. The youngest Uchiha screamed one last time, a level 1 Sharingan appearing on each of his eyes before he passed out. Who are you? asked Itachi, finally letting rage to sip on his voice and for his Sharingan to stare at Naruto and Makoto with hate. His mother lay dead in his arms and his father, or his pieces to be more accurate, were lying on the floor, enormous quantities of blood painting it red. Who I am is not your concern, Uchiha Itachi. Your concern is the life of your beloved younger brother. Here is what you are going to do. You are going to leave the village and you will tell everyone that the only survivor of this massacre is Sasuke. He glared at Itachi, and his killing intent was enough to make Itachi recoil intense. If I heard only a single rumor about Makoto being alive, then you'll have to bear with the fact that you killed your brother. Understood? Itachi's fist tightened and he glared at Naruto, not that Itachi knew who was behind the mask, and he was starting to develop disgust for masks, his eyes morphing into their Mangekyo form. I am going to kill you. Naruto chuckled. You couldn't kill me as of now, but you wouldn't risk harming Sasuke here, so I kindly ask you to get the hell out of here. Itachi swallowed up his anger and with a last look of hatred directed at Naruto and Makoto he left. Naruto paid no mind to the tears that fell to the floor just before Itachi disappeared in a shunshin. Naruto then tapped Sasuke's forehead and a diminutive seal appeared which crawled up to his hairline. Sasuke would remember that Itachi was the one to killed his parents and Makoto. He needed for the two brothers to coincide in their stories after all. Makoto glanced around the room before shrugging and looking at Naruto. What now? She asked him curiously. She squeaked when Naruto wrapped an arm around her and she couldn't help but blush, she felt the hard muscles under his cloak. Naruto chuckled and stared into Makoto's eyes. Now it's time to play a game. You in? Makoto nodded without hesitation and they disappeared in a flash of red. Both Naruto and Makoto appeared in one of Root's old base which Naruto found about during his time training and doing missions under Danzo. Naruto removed his mask and asked Makoto to sit. Makoto can't help but see the similarities between Naruto and Kushina. Same shade of hair, same shape of eyes and same warmth in his eyes as Kushina. She was snapped out of her musing when Naruto offered her some snacks. She blushed embarrassingly. After getting her bearings she asked, where is your mother? How is she alive? I saw her dead body. And where was she all this time? Naruto held his hands up to stop the questioning beauty and spoke, why don't you ask these questions directly to her? And put his hand to her forehead and enter his mindscape along with Makoto. After witnessing what is in front of her Makoto's jaw dropped. In front of her two female Ritiid were talking to the Kikbi no Yoko and she fainted. After she woke up Kushina told her about Minato's plan how she counter it and seal herself into Naruto. About the Uzumaki clan and Uzushio. And some of her plans regarding Naruto, Konoha and whole elemental nation. Suffice to say Makoto was shocked would be understatement but she understands Kushina's reasoning. And told her that she will help Kushina and Naruto however she could. After some catching up both exited Naruto's mindscape. And Naruto gave her a tour of the place and told her stay at base not come out, that he will contact her soon. After finishing up with Makoto Naruto went back to the main headquarters and reported about mission success to Danzo and told him that Uchiha Sasuke had awakened his level 1 Sharingan and he is only survivor left and killed one Uchiha Makoto who was running away but her body flowed away in Naka River. 6 months later. These 6 months have gone same for Naruto. Train in Root HQ, train in Mindscape while sleeping, complete solo missions as Oni, meet and talk with Makoto, and provide her daily supplies. During these 6 months he had developed a positive relationship with Makoto and become good friend with her and also trained with her time to time. The day Naruto had been called by Danzo in his office for another mission, but when Naruto entered Danzo's, he found out that Danzo was not the only one present in the office, Sandaime was also present there with Danzo. After entering Naruto bowed before his letters and said in monotone, Oni reporting Sandom-sama, Danzo-sama. Ah my boy Naruto 100% success in missions quite impressive Naruto-san Daime said cheerfully. Thank you Hokage-sama Naruto replied monotonously. Danzo interrupted their talk by smashing his cane on floor and said, Oni there is another mission for you. What is it Danzo-sama? Edo is supplying weapons to Kumo through his shipping you have to sabotage the assignment going to Kumo and see that no other assignment went for Kumo. Hokage stated monotonously. What about Geto? Do I have to assassinate him? No assassination of Geto. He also supply Konoha various weapon. The shipment will be leaving 2 days from tomorrow. You can leave now. Danzo said and gave him mission scroll after taking the scroll Naruto left after bowing to both of them. His mission reports are great. 100% success without complications. I'm impressed Danzo. Truly impressed. But I think it is time to bring our little weapon in light. Hiruzen stated seriously. Danzo frowned and said, what do you mean by bringing him into light? Hiruzen chuckled and said, I am thinking of him entering the same academy class as Uchiha Sasuke and other clan heirs. Since according to your report he constantly pushes his peers to get stronger. This way we will get a strong clan heads for next generation. But Danzo and add another one of Root Anbu to be prepared for watching over Uchiha Sasuke Sims. He might consider the plan to run away if someone offers him a chance to obtain power to kill Itachi. Danzo wanted to protest but see the reasoning behind Hiruzen's order. "Hi Hiruzen," Danzo muttered bitterly. Seeing this, Hiruzen spoke up, "Think, old friend, with this batch we can show other villages our might." Danzo nodded and muttered, "You're right Hiruzen. So this will be Oni's last mission. You should prepare for his living arrangements, after all we can't have our weapon living on streets. I will inform him of this development after he returns from his mission. I already had an apartment in mind which is in the same block as his Kanjustu partner Anbu Nico." After discussing some more matters, Hiruzen left. With Naruto, after leaving the main office, he went to his quarter and immediately went in his mindscape. Where after talking to Mito, Kushina and Kiyomi, he found out that wave is near Uzumaki. So he decided to visit it and take Mikoto too with him. After checking his gear, he left to the abandoned base from where he picked Mikoto and left Konoha with her. He used Kamui so the barrier can't detect Mikoto's exit since she's dead. After 2 days of traveling, he and Mikoto reached Wave where he completed his mission and left few clone to see that Gato won't send another shipment. After that he left for Yuzu. After bypassing the barrier as Mito told him to do, he along with Mikoto enter Uzumaki. After seeing the state of Uzumaki, he along with Kushina and Mito becomes sad. After getting his bearing back, he his Hiraisen marker in Uzumaki and activated his Rin Sharingan, which made Mikoto imitate like fish. Naruto went through some hand sign and shouted Jito Rin Tensei no Jutsu and fell to his one knee. But before he could get up and control his bearing, he was tackled by newly revived Mito and Kushina, who were hugging him tightly. Both were in the body of their late teens. After some talking and a big hug between Kushina and Mikoto, all went to sleep. The next morning everyone woke, and after eating breakfast Naruto spoke, "So I will be leaving some of my clones here to help you three rebuilding Uzumaki. Since Yumito-chan and Ka-chan know more about the design and Uzushio's architecture, so both of you will be commanding them." Mito spoke smugly while looking at Kushina. "Okay Naruto-kun," she purred. Kushina spoke with sickly sweet smile, "What did I told you to call me Naruto-kun? Call me Kushina-chan." Hi Kushina-chan, Naruto spoke immediately while sweating and everybody laughed at his expense. Using Banbutsu SMZM no Jutsu, he created required material for rebuilding Uzumaki and created Moku Bunshin using Moku Bunshin no Jutsu. Seeing this, Mikoto asked puzzled, "Why Moku Bunshin Naruto-kun? Why not Kage Bunshin since you can create more of them?" So Naruto responded, "Unlike Kage Bunshin, they won't run out since they can use nature chakra to refill their reserve, and they also don't transfer memory to me and can also perform Mokuton technique more easily since they are one with nature." Hearing his response, everyone nodded. "So I will be going back to Konoha." Hearing this, everyone's mood drop. Seeing this, he said calmly, "I need to set some spies there and also I need some techniques and scroll from there." And gave each of them one Hiraisen kunai and spoke, "Beside, you can call me whenever you want." All of them relaxed. So he spoke seriously, "I need to gather allies for Yuzu and also I find some lead about another Uchiha survivor who is about to join Root and lead about some alive Uzumakis." Hearing this, Kushina asked excitedly, "Where are they? How many are there? When we can meet up? Who's the Uchiha survivor?" Mikoto asked calmly. Mito was also excited. Naruto spoke, "I don't get much information about the Uzumaki. But I found out that Orochimaru had one Uzumaki girl working under him. And then there is one red-head girl who can heal people when they bite her in Kusagakure." He took breath then spoke, "And the Uchiha goes by the name of Uchiha Izumi and she only survived because her heart was on right side instead of left. Root Anbus find her and saved her, she is going to join Root." Hearing this, all of them smiled and Mikoto spoke up, "She was a sweet girl unlike many other Uchihas. So it seems you are planning to bring her here, aren't you?" Naruto chuckled and said, "Yes, I will be bringing not just her but many other who will join us." Mito came ahead and said, "Naruto-kun, this seal will help us communicate with you while you are out there." And put the seal over Naruto. And continued, "Please update about the situation while you are there gaining allies. After we rebuild Uzumaki, we will also help in gaining more allies. You don't have to do it all alone. We are with you." Both Kushina and Mikoto nodded. "Thank you all, I know I am not alone. And Mito-chan, I will be looking for Tsunade's location so you can meet her again." After hugging each of them and getting a kiss on cheek by all three beauties, he left for Konoha. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.